Hi, it's Scott Webster from Toyota Technical Training. What I want to show you is a little bit of help on misfire diagnosis. The Toyota data list has some issues with misfire on the data list, and I want to show you kind of a better way that'll help you see misfire more readily and hopefully help with your diagnosis. All right, so what I've got here is a 2020 Highlander with a 2GR. We have a cylinder number 4 misfire. It's a pretty prevalent misfire. You can see it there on cylinder number 4. At the top of the list, though, you can see ignition trigger count. The ignition trigger is counting ignition events, and it's using that to help with misfire. If I bring the RPM up, you may notice that that ignition trigger count goes away. And you notice now that our misfire counter is not necessarily accurately counting misfire. If that ignition trigger counter is not ticking away, then you are not accurately counting misfire. This is a common problem with misfire because you rarely have misfire at idle. You almost always have misfire under load. And if I try to duplicate the condition with load, I'm not going to get any misfire showing on the data list. All right, so instead of using this data list option, I'm going to go over here to my monitor screen, and I'm going to load my monitor information. Now, this is going to give us a more accurate misfire count. However, it is a snapshot. When I enter the monitor screen, it takes a snapshot of the numbers. Those numbers are recording constantly, but I'm just going to see them once in time when I enter the screen. So now that I'm on the monitor screen, you see misfire at the top of the screen. There's a little details button over here on the right. I will hit the details and that will load it. Unfortunately, it's a very small little box in the middle of the screen. Now, what you're going to see, EWMA, we could go into in great detail, but take it just as history. EWMA is what's happened over 10 trips, the last 10 trips. It prioritizes the history. Misfire rate is the current counter, and you can see the misfire rate is very high. So EWMA tells me I've had some problems in the past. Rate tells me I have problems right now. Now, if I look down at my individual cylinders, you can see I have an EWMA or history and a rate for each cylinder. So that's history and current for each cylinder. Cylinder 1's good. Cylinder 2 has a little bit of history, but nothing happening right now. Cylinder 3, tiny thing happening now. But look at cylinder 4. So cylinder 4 has a small history, but the current rate, 1389, we are actively missing on cylinder 4 right now. And that is continuing to count those misfires while we are looking at the screen. You can see cylinder 5 and cylinder 6 are both clean. Now, I had actually unplugged the number 2 coil at the beginning of this video, and you can see EWMA shows that sometime in the past, about 10 trips ago, I had some misfire on cylinder 2. I had a fairly significant misfire count on there, but it is not missing right now because the rate is 0. Cylinder 4, that is our issue right now. So I hope that might give you a little better insight into some misfire things on the data list. That data list works many times. Obviously, we'll have codes in this vehicle. Once it's had a big enough misfire, it'll actually set codes. But if we're trying to duplicate misfire, doing it with the data list can be very challenging, especially if you're misfiring while you're driving down the road. That monitor, I believe, will give you a little better insight into what cylinder is the primary misfiring cylinder.